as you may have seen, the Generation Game is back on TV. They will literally rehash anything now, won't they? But in the property industry, the Generation Game has never gone away. But how big a role does each generation have in shaping the world of property ownership? So, Piragesh, I'm going to start with you on this one. What do you think?
I think the Generation Game has massively shifted. I think if we look at generations, let's break them down into kind of 3 units, if you like. There's those that aren't even thinking about ownership, so they're young children, maybe people at university.
Yeah.
And then there are those that used to be thinking about ownership from sort of 22 to your late 30s, and then there are those that are very much homeowners, let's call them the baby boomers if you like, that are kind of 45 onwards, you know, into retirement.
Yeah.
And I think each of those shape it differently. I think the thing that we've got to think about is generationally, how important is property ownership? In the UK, we're all obsessed, you know, we're all obsessed with property.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's very much a thing that everyone feels they have an absolute right to. But of course, in continental Europe and in other parts of the world, home ownership is not necessarily the absolute and the only way in which wealth is created. So for those that are young, yeah, what are the options open to them? Well, it's very much about savings. You know, the government have made certain steps to help people that are young, whether it's the kind of ISAs that are available in terms of savings. Specifically, they've created ISAs to help you for your deposit.
Okay.
And also, when we start looking at that middle unit, you know, the people who used to want to buy a house immediately, but now actually have to pay off their student loans. I heard an interesting statistic, which is that almost 2 million people would consider saving for a deposit by giving up healthy food.
Wow.
Which, you know, it's staggering in many ways, but it's...
So you'd have a house, but you might die of a heart attack.
Absolutely. It's an impression of how difficult...
How much it means to people. And I think you have really hit on something there. And it is incredibly unfair, if you like, that the younger generation are looking to how good previous generations had it. You know, you got a job pretty much for life, you got a pension. You know, it was kind of a given that if you worked hard, you would accelerate and, you know, up the ladder, and you would own your home. And that just isn't a possibility for people now. But that is going to be a shock, because we're not, you know, European in terms of how the Italians view owning and renting. It's much more common to never own your own property.
I think the other thing is it's not all rosy for those people that are homeowners, because actually they're the guys with all the assets. And I think one of the really interesting things is that people used to look at the bank of mum and dad, but of course it's become incredibly institutionalized now. So whether you go to Barclays or Post Office or any of these types of lenders, they've all got products now which actually rely on bank of mum and dad. So you send your son off to get a mortgage, or son or daughter, in fact, to go and get a mortgage. They come back and say, I've been accepted, but by the way, I now need a guarantee. And that places a huge pressure.
And then do you get checked out to be that guarantor?
Absolutely. You would still need to be checked out, but also, a lot of these baby boomers are looking at reducing pensions, and they're also in an environment where it's not so much about the asset wealth. They've now got to make that liquid. They've got to somehow get cash in order to pay for their old age and in sickness. So
yeah.
I think there are issues with property across the piece for everyone. I think that lenders and government are trying their best. We're getting mortgages. If you're young at 25, you can get mortgages at 35, 40 years now. You know, that's an attempt by the financial institutions to make it more affordable. The governments are putting help to buy in, to help, again, people to get on the property ladder. And that's without even talking about real property wealth, which is beyond your first home. So I think there's a lot to debate here.
Yeah.